what would be like one piece of advice to give to somebody trying to get into the painting hobby?
The biggest one is just to give it a try. The experience of just deciding whether this guy's cape is going to be red or blue or black. It is a very fun and calming and meditative experience, and the best advice I can give is just give it a shot, get that experience, and see if you like it.
Hi everybody, and welcome back to Geek Peek for another content creator interview. Joining me is Brent from Goobertown Hobbies. Say hello, Brent.
Hey.
Brent has a successful YouTube channel where he talks about miniature painting, models, does a couple reviews on board games as well, and we're going to dive into that and talk to him about his channel. Brent, thank you for joining me. I appreciate it.
Glad to be here.
First things first, I think the most obvious question is, why the name Goobertown Hobbies?
Ooh, that's a good question. All right. Actually, I'd been using that as a gamer tag for a little while, but a goober, in my definition, it varies, but my definition is an affable nerd. So, like, definitely a nerd, but, like, got a little bit of a personality, reasonably nice to be around. And a goober town is a collection of goobers. So you got a Keebler tree, you got a bunch of elves in that tree making cookies. That's a goober town.
Okay.
You got Santa's village. There's a bunch of elves sitting around making toys. That's a goober town.
Okay.
But yeah, it's an acknowledgement that what we do is nerdy, but it's also fun and playful.
Yeah, that's honestly, that comes across because that's exactly what I had imagined. Like, that self-reflection of, these are my hobbies. Yes, some people view them in a certain way, but I have fun with it, so let's go there.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. As I mentioned, you do a lot of miniature painting. That's the main focus of your channel. What was that first introduction of you as Brent, like, I need to paint something? Like, did that start as you were already artistic and then got into minis, or was it minis first and then artistic later?
It was minis first. So I have gone down the popular gamer to painter pipeline. So for me, my nerd origins, probably the first really like nerd game store nerd kind of game that I played was Star Wars customizable card game. And that was in the late 90s somewhere. My family moved to a different town. The kids in the new town didn't play SWCCG. They played Warhammer.
Okay.
And so made a group of friends, middle school kids playing Warhammer. And it turned out that I really, really enjoyed the crafting and art side of that, of putting the minis together, putting paint on the minis. And, you know, as I grew up in high school and college and all the rest, you fall in and out of various hobbies. And I didn't do as much painting in my 20s or so, but right around the 29th or 30th birthday, back into minis, and have been hard in it for the last several years. Gotcha.
I have a similar tale involving TTRPGs. Like, I played a bit when I was younger, like early, like 8 to 10 years old. Took a break for a couple years, got back into it. This is the cat just breaking stuff off camera. Got back into it like 18 to 20, and then took another break. And then, honestly, around the same time, like 29, 30, I got back into it like more hardcore and have been doing it since then. Yeah, that's fantastic. It's difficult to find somebody that's like, I've been doing this my whole life. There are those people, of course, but
there were some breaks in there for sure.
Yeah,
I remember there was a year in college when I did have some savage orcs in a drawer in my desk there at college in the dorm. And I remember my friends would come over like, Brent, time to go out and party. And I'd be like, just a minute. And like put everything back.
We gotta hide this under the pillow.
Just a minute. Yeah. I'll be right out. Yeah.
Those aren't my paints. I'm holding them for a friend. Yeah. What then led you, like, was there a certain... So you said once you got into Warhammer is when you started painting. Was there a certain model, or I know Warhammer has a lot of the different armies are similarly styled. Was there a certain army that pulled you in and you're like, I gotta paint this for some reason?
I will always love orcs and goblins, the greenskins.
Yeah.
There's a fun to them, a joy, And yeah, always have
Okay.
a great time painting those for sure.
Do you still have any of that like original army that you painted those years ago, or is
Oh,
that
I
been
do.
lost to time?
I do. There have been a few of my older paint jobs that I stripped for whatever reason, but I have most of them still, and I'm glad that I do. It's kind of fun to go back and look at them. And I was having a discussion with somebody the other day about the old shade called Goblin Green
Hmm.
from Citadel, from the Warhammer line. And at the time, that was the color that you painted the bases, was the old Goblin Green. And the
Yeah.
other day I was talking to somebody about, trying to color match modern colors to that old Goblin Green. And I said, "Oh, hold on a second here." And I went and I dug out my Dark Eldar warriors that I'd painted in 1998, and I looked at the base rim, and I was like, "All right, I got a genuine sample here of Citadel paint line Goblin Green." And
Yeah.
it's good to keep these things on record. I am a little bit of a hoarder by nature. Like, I might find a use for this someday. This has potential. This has meaning to me. Might as well keep it.
Yeah.
But in the world of miniatures, the nice thing about this hobby is that each individual figure is small, and so you can fit a lot of them into a shoebox if you want. Like,
That's very true. Yeah.
they also do have some value, so sometimes there might be the motivation to sell them and pay rent or whatever. But if you can avoid that red line, you can save your miniatures forever, and they don't take up that much space. And if they do
Yeah.
take up a ton of space, that's because you have way too many of them, and they're a big part of your life, and it's worth the space that they take up.
Yeah. Yeah. It's good to. You mentioned being a hoarder. I think like the Venn diagram of hoarder and like nerdy collector is almost a full circle, because even
Sure.
like the different hobbies, it's like you play Magic the Gathering. Again, individually they're small, but you get a couple hundred
I've
cards.
got a few long boxes. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Exactly, yeah. Comics. Like I collect like the Pop Funkos. Like those take
Oh,
up a lot of space.
well, yeah, that's an interesting example. I was thinking Funko Pops, the action figures that are still in the packaging. There are some nerdy collectibles that take up way too much space, but you can
Yeah,
you can get a lot of 1 inch tall goblins into a shoebox like that.
that's very true. I'm looking at. I have a. I went to PAX Unplugged this past
Uh-huh.
December. They had like a paint booth for
Yeah.
Warhammer, and like this is my inspiration for continuing to keep painting, because I painted that. I think it looks all right. I don't have any problems with it, but like I've already done better, so it's good to like have that whenever I'm working on something and just look up and see that that's probably my first like fully completed miniature.
Yeah, that's an awesome reference point, and it's advice that I give to any new painter is, yeah, try to save your first couple of minis, because you will be interested in looking back at those someday, and you might
Yeah,
not think you're improving, but you are, and yeah,
it's great to, and obviously everybody's their own worst critic. So like you paint something, you're like it looks okay, but then like you put it on a table and you get somebody else's reaction, and that's what is some of the best. Like I do a lot of D&D, so I run a lot of games. I don't have a lot of miniatures yet, so they've all been like stand-ins or just stuff I bought at the local store.
hmm
But then actually getting to paint my own and have people react to them, it's a great feeling too.
agreed, agreed. So I was saying my story is more from the Warhammer side of things, and
Hmm.
from there I've branched out into other miniature games or other miniature lines. I don't play a ton of the actual games, but I love looking at the different lines. But where I'm going with this is D&D is such a rich opportunity to paint miniatures, and from my point of view, it seems like not enough of the D&D community does paint miniatures. So if we've got some D&D gamers listening, give it a look, give it a try. That is one of my little ongoing missions, is to evangelize this mini painting hobby a little bit. And
Yeah,
RPGs is just a rich arena for doing that.
yeah, and that's one of the things that I was trying to do as well, with like my painting journey, is like you mentioned that there's not a lot of miniature painting for like D&D specifically, but you can go online and find dozens and dozens of like Warhammer. It's all about like that's the main driving miniature paint is for Warhammer stuff,
Right.
which is fine. Like I picked up a couple Warhammer minis just to I don't play. I can't afford that investment, but I picked up a couple to just like practice on. But yeah, I'm also trying to get the like because D&D there's all these different things that you can have fantastic colors, dark settings, realistic settings.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really cool to have those minis like customized for each character, each player.
100%. And there are so many options for RPG minis. I mean, there are official Pathfinder minis and official D&D minis. WizKids Reaper is not officially licensed, but it is all very much like, yeah, here's a barbarian for you.
Yeah.
And then you've got Hero Forge, Eldritch Foundry.
Oh yeah, all
if
the
you want-
3D printed.
Yeah, if you want to
custom
customize
ones,
and 3D print your own custom character. And then in the realm of 3D printing, there are so many sculptors these days selling digital STL files. And
What is it? My Mini Factory or Mini Factory?
yeah, My Mini Factory is a good starting place for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's just all of these 1 or 2 person shops that are normally they're centered around like Patreon of doing monthly releases of STL files, and maybe they'll do 5 or 10 or sometimes more different sculpts of characters that you can use for RPGs.
Yeah.
They'll release those every month. And that has been going on for a few years now, and the libraries have gotten huge. There's a ton of variety out there, and a good place to start to look if you want to go to myminifactory.com and type in Tiefling Rogue and see what pops up. Like
You'll get 1,200 results. Yeah. Yeah. I was just on there a week or so ago looking for Wendigo for an upcoming game.
Yep.
And I wanted something very like I had a very specific image in my mind. Pulled up a couple of results like this is too graphic, this is too woodland, this is too for some reason futuristic. But like a couple of results later, I was like, this is it, this is the one. And it was just a couple of bucks for the file. I can take the file to my local game store. They'll print it out for me for a few more bucks. And now I got a Wendigo that I can paint for my upcoming game. It's fantastic.
Ooh, that's a handy game store. I don't know of any places near me locally that have a printer. I mean, I have printers in my basement, so there's that, but
Yeah.
that's a great service.
Yeah, so I moved to this area about a year ago, and that was one of the first things I sought out was like a local game store. And I was speaking to the owner, and they said that they have their own printing process for like selling stuff in the shop. I was like,
Wow.
I'm gonna give you my number. Just call me when you have an open spot, and I'll have something for you to print.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really cool.
On that topic, I'm just looking just off camera. I have a ton of Warhammer minis set out, and I also have 13 little slips of paper set out, and it goes Artificer, Barbarian, Bard, Cleric. And so what I've done is I just took some old Warhammer minis and asked the question, can I find like cool Warhammer minis for every class in D&D?
Okay.
And the answer is yes, and it's actually really easy. And you know, I'm a YouTuber, so I'm always trying to think of like, oh, what's a fun video idea, video title.
Yeah.
And yeah, so one popped into my mind, like, yeah, painting a Warhammer mini for every class in D&D. And so I pulled out some of my collection. I'm like, oh, there's actually so many options that it's that is what makes it hard. Like, you know, you think
narrowing it down.
Yeah, narrowing it down.
Yeah. Okay.
And you're just like, wow, I mean, of course, fighter can be almost anything, but even cleric is like, wow, there are a surprising number of warriors that are holding a book like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of religious overtones in Warhammer from what I've gathered. So that, yeah, I feel like fighter and cleric would be pretty easy. Same with paladin. Clerics and paladins are similar.
Yep. That's one of my dilemmas too. Is I got my pile of clerics and my pile of paladins, and I'm trying to decide which mini goes in which pile, and sometimes I'm trading them around. Yeah.
Speaking of Dungeons and Dragons, you were on a D&D podcast for a little while. I had it written down, and now I don't.
20-Sided Realms, that is the name, right?
That's it. Yeah, 20-Sided Realms. Yeah. I saw that hasn't been updated in a while. Is that something that you want to get back into, or something that you're still looking to do?
Oh, that'd be great to get back into. Our DM, who is also the person who does all of the editing, got very busy and had some stuff come up, and the same sort of thing that happens to offline D&D games as well.
Yeah, I feel that pain.
But that may start up again, and if it does, I think everyone's going to be excited to get back at it.
I wasn't even aware of it until I started looking more into you, so I added that to my list of things to listen to now. So you got one more follower out of it.
Yeah, that's a fun one. The 20-Sided Realms. If you need one more D&D podcast, there's enough episodes to be entertaining, and then It comes to a screeching halt. But that's the way of things. But that was a treat. So I am the least talented voice actor character person on that podcast. Everyone else is very talented, but they brought me on because I have a little bit bigger online following, which it all works out, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. You help them, they help you. It works out for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And there's just more good content out there.
Indeed.
What is your experience with TTRPGs outside of the podcast? Like, when did you first get into that?
A little bit here and there. Not as much as I would have liked, but I've had a few groups in my past that I've enjoyed, and I've played D&D, and one was more like combination D&D and Pathfinder, and I played some Vampires Dark Age, done some short campaigns for Traveler, and couple shot a Call of Cthulhu. So I've played a little bit of TTRPGs. I enjoy them. I actually think they're more fun than most miniature war games. I quite enjoy them.
Is there a specific reason you have that viewpoint about it, or just like your personal experience while doing it?
It's the personal experience, and what I mean by that is what happens on game day. On game day for a TTRPG, if you are in person, you're all sitting around on couches, and you're thinking about just clever, fun things for your character to do next. And you've got a little time to think about it while the other people are doing their thing. You're all telling a story together. You're all winning at the same time, essentially, with fun little unexpected highlights along the way.
Yeah.
Whereas war games like Warhammer, I don't know, it can be a slog sometimes. I also enjoy video games, and I enjoy the Total War series of video games. So Total War Warhammer is actually a really good representation of the board game of Warhammer. The old Warhammer fantasy game, the rank and flank game where you just had regiments of goblins up against regiments of dwarves or whatever. That's actually recreated really well in the Total War engine. And a game of Warhammer that lasts about 4 hours represents about 2 minutes of play in Total War Warhammer.
Yeah.
And during that time, you are rolling dice and doing math and looking up charts, and you got your measuring stick. Whereas it's kind of nice if the computer just knows the rules, does all the calculations, figures out the percentages, adjudicates things. That's actually kind of nice.
Yeah, it does make it a little less stressful from time to time.
Yeah, so there's a much higher mental load that goes along with a lot of tabletop war games, from what I've found. And I've never been a DM in an RPG, and so I assume that's different, being a GM or DM, storyteller, whatever. But as a player in an RPG, you don't have to do that much. I mean, there's memes and things about people not remembering what their own spells do, or not keeping track of spell slots or whatever. But if you do the work of putting Post-it notes for your 4 spells into the player's handbook, that's about all you need to do to be ready to play D&D. You're good to go. And then other than that, it's hanging out and having fun, telling a story. Like, now my guy's gonna jump through the window, and I also feel that in RPGs, it depends on the group, but the rules don't matter as much. Like if you say my guy is gonna jump through that window and tuck and roll into the room, and you roll a d20 and you got a 14. Does it even matter what your modifiers are? Just tell your DM you got a 14, and what does that get me? How we doing?
Yeah, there was a really good. Trying to remember the quote. Natural ones tell a better story than natural 20s.
Sure.
Because, like, you still go to jump through that window, but with a natural one, like, you smash through the window, and maybe instead of, like, landing cool and scaring the bandits, you crash into the hostage, and now the hostage is unconscious, and now you're bleeding because you crashed through a window. But yeah, that's absolutely true. Just hanging out and telling a story together is... Yeah, I mean, that's how I try to spend as much of my time as I can.
So do you play locally mostly, or you have online groups, or?
I have a local group and a few online groups as well. Like I said, I moved here about a year ago. I moved in with my fiance. We bought a house in 5 hours from where I used to live. So all my local groups stayed there, obviously. But it's my fiance, her sister, and then her fiance. We get together like I said, we took a break over the summer for everything, but we're starting back up next Thursday, playing in person. And then I have a couple groups online as well that scheduling is even worse because I have 2 players 2 time zones behind me in Canada. I have 1 player in the Eastern time zone with me, and then I have 2 players over in London. So like getting us all together at the same time is a pain in the neck, but we still do that probably about once a month.
Not bad.
It's not bad. And like I said earlier, we're trying to do the actual plays for the channel and stuff, so I'm trying to get some more of that going probably during the week after work, and do that as well. But I'm trying also to find a group where I can play. I am the living embodiment of like the lifelong DM.
Right.
So I run all these games and all these groups, which is fine. I like doing that. It is my favorite part. But sometimes, like you said, it's good to just like sit back, hang out, somebody else tell a story, I'll jump through the window, I'll save the princess.
Hey, you're appreciated. Thanks for doing what you do.
No problem.
Somebody's got to. Yeah.
Somebody's got to. Exactly. Yeah. You mentioned quite a few different TTRPG systems. Is there any that really like pop in your mind that you really want to try out that you haven't had a chance yet?
Not necessarily. I'm not deep enough into that world to really know all the finer points.
Gotcha.
But for me, it's almost more the setting seems more important than the rules. My understanding of how to play an RPG is, I want to do this. How does that go? What does that get me? And really, the rules, in my mind, just matter how easily the GM is able to sort that out, and whether that's convenient for them or not. I mean, there certainly are some games where like it's easier to actually die, and I guess that's one of the components of the rules. So Call of Cthulhu, it seemed like that's a game where you have to actually be careful and try not to either go mad or just actually die.
That's a game you can die in very, very easily, yeah.
Whereas D&D seems more like a game where like, I'm gonna throw a rock at the guard. Why not? Like, all right. Like, then the GM has to find a way to keep you out of jail. Like, that's how that goes. But
when you're gearing up for like a big project, is there a certain like do you have like a rhythm or a method to your madness on, I just got this army, but I want to paint these ones first, to do these ones second? Do you have any sort of steps that you take that are consistent across like your painting projects?
Oh, I try to just follow where the energy is. And for a big project where I'm going to paint a lot of minis, often for me where the energy is doing test models, and often that will slow me down from ever actually completing the project. But you were talking about 3D printing earlier, and I'm working on a project right now where I'm just trying to paint one mini, but I printed the mini like 10 times because I could fit 10 of them on a print plate, and getting like 10 versions of this mini all prepped up so that I can do a couple of test models to really find my color scheme that I want before I actually paint the dang thing. I don't know. I'm inefficient, and I'm puttering, and I'm doing all kinds of stuff, but that's what I enjoy, is just following wherever the energy is. For me, it's not necessarily about output of getting, I don't know, a certain number of awesome minis painted. It's about enjoying the process, trying new things, diving in, that sort of thing.
More about enjoying it than getting something done.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, that makes
sense. I used the word puttering a few minutes ago, and that is something that's occurred to me recently is really important in so many of our hobbies. And the idea of just going out to the garage or going down to the basement and puttering, the definition of which is just doing small chores that are unimportant, but you're working through them and getting them done, and you're getting a little bit of sense of accomplishment and forward momentum out of them. And part of the miniature painting hobby is just puttering. It's neatening up your workspace and shaking up your paint bottles and replacing the knives in your hobby knives, replacing the razor blades, and just getting your dojo the way you want it, getting your hobby space the way you want it.
Get the feng shui going so that you can focus better next time. Yeah.
Yep. I don't have any meaningful advice on how to paint a full Warhammer army. Sorry, but
that's fine.
The way I think about things is dive in there and have fun. That's the point of this hobby. And hopefully from time to time you will get some models coming out the other end that you're proud of.
Yeah, absolutely. You have a very calm, soothing voice, and that is one of the things I like most about your videos. When you're like working or you're neck deep in a project, is there something specific that you listen to really try and help you focus? Are there like some lo-fi beats type of thing that you listen to, or a certain podcast that you also want to plug while you're here, or anything like that to kind of help you hone in your focus?
I do listen to podcasts. Life After the Cover Save is a fantastic comedy gaming podcast. I listen to Legends of the Painty Men. Fantastic. Couple of stand-up comedian types talking about Age of Sigmar.
Okay.
I do podcasts, but actually for music there's a variety, but I'm more likely to listen to kind of like industrial, like Nine Inch Nails or something like that. It's not
really.
Yeah, it's not soft country or I don't know what you had in mind, but no, it's. Whatever.
I know that a lot of people do like the lo-fi beats for like painting and creating and like writing and stuff like that. So that was me assuming, but industrial music, heck yeah.
Sometimes, yeah. So I am the sort of person who almost always has a pair of headphones on. And normally the reason is just that, so no one else has to listen to whatever I'm listening to. Well,
yeah, I get that. What would be, and I think you've mentioned this in a couple of your videos, what would be like one piece of advice to give to somebody trying to get into like the painting hobby?
I mean, the biggest one is just to give it a try. So there are tons and tons of tutorial videos out there, and there's a lot of good ones. Start on my channel or just type in your questions into YouTube and see what happens. But the biggest thing is just to put paint on the brush and start moving it around. So something that I really have been trying to encourage is paint and take events. So
Yes.
these can be at your game store, or they're very popular at like big nerd conventions.
Hmm.
And essentially, it's some tables set up that have some models on them, some paint, some brushes, some cups of water, and people are encouraged to just come on over, grab a free mini, and normally it's some board game minis or something that have been like nastily primed up. That's fine. That's fine.
Yeah, gotta
That
start
is a
somewhere.
fine first mini to take, and yeah, just have a seat and give it a shot. The experience of just taking a load off your feet, being in one place for maybe an hour or so. You're sitting there, you're calming down, the blood pressure's going down, and all you're doing is just deciding whether this guy's cape is going to be red or blue or black. And then, it is a very fun and calming and meditative experience. And the best advice I can give is just give it a shot, get that experience, and see if you like it. And the other thing that goes along with that is that there's no wrong answers here.
Yeah.
It's just paint. Worst case scenario, if you don't like the way it turned out, you paint over, because it's paint. You can repaint things. It's fine. And if you really mess up, you can strip the model. Like if you just have globs of dried nastiness on the face, you can strip the model. That's doable too. Or other worst case scenario, you just spend an extra couple of bucks and get yourself a new fresh model, and you try again, and the next time will be better. But what I was saying earlier, that D&D has become so popular, and also separately Warhammer has become popular. And the Warhammer side of things, people do give painting a try generally, and the D&D side of things, a lot of people just keep it pen and paper, which is fine. But man, there are so many people in that community who, if you just get them the basics, get them maybe like 10 paints, a paintbrush, cup of water, paper towel, and a miniature, would really enjoy just unwinding at the end of a day, putting paint on a mini. Just the physical kinesthetic motion of smushing paint around. There's something to it. It's really special, and I encourage people to give it a shot.
Yeah, it is very relaxing. I went through a brief time of like trying to get good enough fast enough to have minis for my games, but then I realized that that's not the process. Like, I shouldn't be trying to like force an amount of output just to have on my table for next week. I still have a mini. I still have a physical representation. Just because it's not painted doesn't take anything away from it. It's on me to describe the character anyways. So I got to that point, and I was like, no, that's not how I should be doing this. And then it was just like one miniature, one night, a couple days later, do another one. You're right. It's very just, the process itself is very relaxing.
Yep.
And just like chill.
Yep. And you can be listening to anything. It's hard to watch some modern dramas where it's you have to actually be paying attention to what's going on.
Yeah.
But you can be watching a rerun of Star Trek or The Office or whatever, getting that in your ear holes while you're painting, or listening to books on tape. That was the answer to your question. I go through a lot of Audible books, actually, but
a lot of books on tape, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of books on tape. But yeah, you get to just get immersed in whatever media you want to be hanging out with while you're just sitting there, and like, is he wearing blue jeans or is he wearing khakis? Like, ooh. Maybe these cargo pants are gonna be camouflage. Can I do camouflage? I can put like little dots of
little green blotch on there.
I can do that. Yeah, let's see how that looks.
Let's give that a shot.
Not too good, is it? I'm gonna repaint those pants gray. That's gonna be better. Yeah.
I had a very similar situation. I was painting a Duergar, however it's pronounced, like the Underdark dwarves.
A dark dwarf. Yes. No, I'm with you.
Yeah. and he was like the leader of this little tribe. I wanted his gauntlet to be a different color because the one gauntlet was magical, not the pair.
Mm-hmm.
So I went through and I painted the other gauntlet to look like the rest of the army. And then I went to the other one and was like, well, it's magical. What magical effects does it have? I looked at my notes. Okay, it does this thing. Should it be magical and look like those magical effects, or should it be magical and the opposite of those effects?
Yeah, does it do fire damage, or does it do ice damage? Poison
exactly,
damage? Yeah, we know what colors those are.
Yeah, red, blue, green, we got it. Okay, yeah. Lightning, we could do yellow.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was just like and then I was just like kind of messing around, and just by luck, I got it like a very nice shiny red that really popped against the rest of the figure that was more, not like matte, but like more subdued gloss type of thing. So it was just a very happy accident.
That's a great point. Like as you're working along and painting, from time to time, you'll get it right. From time to time, something either will turn out the way you intended, or turn out better than you intended, or different but cool. From time to time, like the way that you level up your painting skills is a lot of fun. Sometimes it's purposely trying a technique that maybe you saw a friend use or you saw online, but sometimes it's just sitting there and muddling through and like, oh my goodness, this really worked, didn't it? I'm gonna do this again on the next mini.
I'm gonna take these notes down.
Yeah,
absolutely.
And it is a skill that builds over time, that becomes more and more rewarding as you get better. And it's also a skill that you can keep on doing for the rest of your life. You do need at least one hand that mostly works most of the time, and two eyes that can be corrected to mostly work most of the time.
Yeah.
But as long as you're meeting those requirements, like, yeah, this is an activity you can keep on doing for the rest of your life. Keep on getting better. Keep on. There are more models out there in the world already that will last many lifetimes, and the rate of new models keeps increasing. So it is a wonderful hobby for those reasons.
Yeah, absolutely. And like you said, it's not tied to, you don't have to tie it to a specific like game or genre. Like you can collect and paint Warhammer minis and never play the game, or you do the same thing for D&D or literally any other game. You don't have to play that universe that it's from just to get a mini and paint it.
Yep, for sure. But if you are in a game, I've noticed that DMs seem to paint more than players, but players, in a way, like that's a perfect, doable achievement to paint a miniature for your character in your game. That is a fun little project. Go to your game store, see what they have for minis, see if one of them kind of looks like what you have an idea for your character looking like, and give it a try. You were saying that if you're the DM and you've got 20 goblins one week and 20 Durgar the next week, and that can be overwhelming. But for players, they just need like one mini that they feel happy about. That's a perfect size, doable little challenge. So
it's a great way to get started on it. Yeah,
challenge anyone who has a RPG game and they have a character. Try to paint a mini for your character. I bet you can do it. Yeah,
I bet you can as well. And then you should show me what they all look like, because I want to see everybody's paints. What do you have coming up for you for the rest of the year? Is there any like big projects you're working on? Anything you're going to or going anywhere?
Yes, probably. Okay, so we're gonna stipulate first. I got COVID for the first time ever, and I'm in like week 3 of trying to recover.
Oh,
and
wow.
If I recover in time, I'm planning on going to the Nova Open in the DC area, and I'm planning on going to actually the Spiel convention in Essen, Germany. This is a big board game convention.
Yeah.
While I'm in Europe, I'm going to go visit a 3D printing miniature manufacturing setup. So
Wait, so do they make the printers?
They make the miniatures.
Okay.
They have found printers that work well if you set them up right to manufacture hundreds of identical miniatures in a reasonable amount of time.
Oh, wow.
And so traditionally, miniatures have been injection molded or spin cast, like a two-part mold system, either in plastic or metal or what have you. But 3D printers are now good enough that you can actually produce them fast enough and in high enough quality that 3D printing is just as viable for kind of small or medium-sized production runs as injection molding. And that is fascinating to me, and it's really interesting to see various small game companies start to incorporate this.
Yeah.
And every material has pros and cons and stuff it's good at and less good at. But the neat thing about 3D printing is that a model normally takes fewer pieces in a 3D printer. So if you're dealing with a two-part mold, there are just certain shapes that you can't do with that. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to cast a warrior, and the warrior has two swords or something like that, for that to be cast in metal or in plastic as a single piece in a two-part mold, those swords need to be held to the sides or above the head. It needs to be like a very flat shape.
Okay, I see.
But the figure would not be able to hold the two swords out in front of them. If they're holding the swords out in front of them, that would mean that you have to figure out a different way to cast that. Maybe make a cut at the shoulders, and then your model is now three pieces.
Yeah.
It's two arms and then the body and legs and head. But the really cool thing about the way 3D printers work is it can do all kinds of different shapes. There are far fewer limitations to the poses it can make. Mm-hmm. And so if you're trying to produce minis for a board game, you can actually get some more interesting dynamic shapes without assembly required from a 3D printer. But anyway, so next on my schedule is I'm going to go see someone who does professional production of miniatures with a 3D printer. And I think I've got lined up a couple of different tours of resin facilities too. The juice that goes into 3D printers, and I am very excited about that.
Yeah, that's my brother-in-law got a 3D printer a year and a half or so ago, and he's a big nerd about things like that. And we started talking about it. Like it's like top on my list of things to get, but it's just like the new house and moving and trying to unpack still from a year ago. They're fascinating how fast they've increased in quality and decreased in cost.
Yep.
Now it's like a $200 or $300 printer now is so much better than a $200 or $300 printer just a couple years ago.
Yep. They are solidly in the absolutely good enough stage.
Yeah.
And there's still some safety questions. Like you don't, I wouldn't have them running in your child's bedroom or something like that. Yeah. But I think, I would like to do even more research, but I think they're safe in, rooms that you rarely use or in your garage or what have you. But and they're, a little bit messy. You'll get some resin drips on things, so you need to be careful with that. And so just on the topic of are resin 3D printers viable? Like that's my only reservation is just make sure you've got a part of your house where you don't mind getting some resin drips on things, and you can kind of leave the room while the resin is out, so you're not breathing anything. I think it's still safer to breathe than the filament printers where you're melting plastic.
Yeah, that can't be good.
Yeah, it's all a question of how bad it is for you. So I see tons of people talking about the safety of 3D printing, and yeah, I mean, it's not good for you. But on the other hand, like, how much secondhand smoke is okay? Like,
Yeah.
how good is it for you to, I don't know, sit in traffic for an hour?
I was gonna say, how much exhaust is it
yeah,
good to inhale
and,
sitting in traffic?
and a lot of this is we don't necessarily know the answers. I mean, for like the really common pollutants in our lives, there have been serious studies done. But
Yeah.
for more niche things like 3D printer resin, there's not as much like real solid long range data on that. And so it's a matter of like, okay, common sense, take reasonable precautions, be smart about it, treat it with respect. But yeah.
That's a really good point. That, I mean, I was gonna, like, when I do get one, it's gonna go out in the garage anyways. But like that makes a lot of sense. Like you said, it hasn't been around long enough to be studied properly. So like, yeah, just take basic precautions.
Yeah.
Another room, if you can open a window.
Yep. And the ingredients in a lot of these things have been around for a while. So like the ingredients that goes into the blends for 3D printer resin, a lot of those ingredients have been studied.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have some idea of how careful to be, but
Yeah.
that is one of those things that I am hoping to learn more about so I can give some more definitive answers to. But
Well, I look forward to being educated through you on that process after you take that trip. That sounds very, very exciting.
For now, be wise, be safe, be careful, be smart.
Absolutely, yeah. I don't have a good way to wrap up interviews yet, so
Okay.
I'm trying this out. And like I said, if you don't want to answer it, you don't have to.
Okay.
I see, obviously, you have a cat, so
I
you're
do.
probably more of a cat person. But if you were a dog, what would your name be?
Well, the name Sparky came to mind immediately. I don't know why, though. Hold on. Let me think about that.
I'm writing that down. That's on the record. Sparky.
Maybe I have to think about that one. I don't know. That's what came to mind.
Yeah. I'm just trying to find something like...
Goobers, Tickles,
Tickles.
I don't know.
And just trying to find some fun way to end the interview and, get an unexpected question and answer. Like you said,
absolutely.
Sparky came to mind immediately.
Absolutely. I don't know. I name my own pets like pretty stupid names. Snuffles has been harassing us all interview here. Before Snuffles, I had Whiskers. Before Whiskers, I had Mittens. And at the same time as Snuffles here, I've got Gordon. That's the name he had at the shelter, and that was good enough to stick. Yeah.
All right, Sparky and or Tickles.
Sparky
Okay.
it is, or Tickles.
Sparky it is. All right. Well, thank you very much for joining me, Brent. I appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure.
We can find you on YouTube at Goobertown Hobbies.
That's right.
Hopefully everybody goes and checks out your channel. You have great stuff about painting and chill vibes, so go check them out. Thanks for joining us.